Hey YouTube, I've been, this is Brian with Renegade Trucking. I've been meaning to record this video for some time, but just keep, forgetting or don't have time to do it or whatever. But yeah, I kind of wanted to do like a quick about me video, like my background and why I'm getting into trucking and all of that. So I'll just kind of start from the beginning. I'm someone who I grew up in central Pennsylvania, which there's quite a bit of the trucking industry is pretty big there, so it's never been anything like, some people kind of have negative stances towards truckers or the trucking industry or anything like that, but it was never really particularly that way for me, just because I saw, I had a lot of friends, family members, and that were in, not my family members, but friends' family members were in trucking and all that kind of stuff. So I saw what it could provide to people. So it was just, another source of income, source of industry. And so I never really had like that negative, I never saw like the negative aspect of it or anything. And yeah, like for instance, my very close family friend, their father was, he was an owner-operator, and he would haul, another big industry in the area is modular homes, so he would haul, modular homes to wherever the home was sold. He'd pick it up from the manufacturer and then drive it with we call them escort vehicles in central Pennsylvania, but everywhere else they call them pilot cars. Drive with a pilot car. And that was what I was always interested in, what I wanted to do. And then, kind of like Smokey and the Bandit, you have the blocker vehicle. But yeah, I always wanted to drive pilot car. I never had like a huge interest in driving the big truck or anything like that. I always wanted to be like a NASCAR driver. So, so I was more interested in having that small vehicle and going, just doing that. I was never interested in driving the large trucks really as a kid or anything. And so that was my first exposure to it. He had like, I think it was an International, it was a cab over. I think it was like an International 18 speed, if I remember correctly. And so I remember, climbing all around in that when we were kids and that kind of stuff. And, even as a teenager. Then when I got to high school, I ended up moving to a different area, and my best friend in high school, his grandfather actually owned like a really large trucking company. Well, I say really large, I mean large for the area, trucking company in central Pennsylvania. And so I had some exposure to that. I got to go to, his mom was a dispatcher, and so I remember one of the coolest things we did was they had like a truck rodeo for the family day for the company, and I got to be like one of the judges for the truck rodeo. I was just in a corner of the course, and if I had to count how many cups they knocked over and that were on the course with the truck. It was like a slalom type ordeal, and I thought that was like really cool. And so I had some exposure there. I actually eventually ended up, my first job out of high school was I worked as a fuel clerk at that company's truck stop. And so I remember like all the stories. I worked on over the weekends, and that was when at this company pretty much all the drivers would be home every weekend. So they were all either coming in on, like Friday or Saturday and fueling up before, to be ready for next week, or on Sunday night when I would work, they'd be fueling up as they're hitting the road, leaving on Sunday. And I just remember hearing like all the stories, all sorts of cool stuff. And, I loved Smokey and the Bandit. I thought that was a cool movie. So that was kind of like my exposure to trucking and everything. I ended up, I got into sales shortly after. I was going to college for network security, and just I had financial aid issues. It didn't pan out, so I needed to come up with a way to pay for school to go do that. And so I got into sales and eventually got into car sales, and I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved selling cars. I did that from 2007 on, and I kept doing that. That's what it actually brought me down to Florida. I did, in the meantime, one of the other sales positions that I held was with wireless cell phones, and so I spent some time in the wireless industry as well. I kind of bounced between the two, actually working my way up into retail management in for one of the wireless carriers, and I just found that I didn't really enjoy retail management, and I went back into the car business. And actually, in a short period of time, I had an opportunity to become a sales manager and finance manager for a small dealership that I previously worked for. And from there, I grew into being a finance manager at a larger dealership, and I got recruited to come down to Florida. That's what brought me down here. But while I was down here, I ended up, I wanted to go to school. I finally had some money and everything. I was ready to do that. And so I started doing, the car business was really changing quite a bit at this time. And I started doing over the road, not trucking, but over the road car sales, doing mailer sales. So I'd fly out to, a city or whatever, to a dealership that the company I was working with had already sent out, 20, 30, 50,000 pieces of mail to residents in that area. And then we would work the sale as kind of like hired guns that came in to the dealership to help assist in closing sales and everything. And so I did that for a bit, but it was just being gone all the time. I was 1 year into a relationship, a serious relationship with someone that I had met down here in Florida. And she really didn't enjoy it. I really didn't enjoy being away from her that long. And because it was kind of like trucking, I'd be gone, 3 or 4 weeks at a time, going from sale to sale, and then I'd come back for, a week or two or whatever. And so it's pretty similar to that. And that just wasn't working out. So finally, by this time, I was already working on my degree. I was close to having my associate's degree. And so I finally got my first break where I got into working with computers. And I got laid off from that job. I got my bachelor's degree in IT security, and that was what I wanted to do. And right after that, she wanted to stay in this area in Southwest Florida, and there weren't a lot of jobs, but I was lucky enough. I wasn't able to get a job in my field, but I was able to get a job as a software engineer for Oracle. And for those of you who may not know, they're the second largest software company in the world. So this was kind of a really big deal. And I did that job, and I absolutely hated it. Office work was just not for me. I went off for a few years doing some of my own stuff after I was there for about 1.5 years, and they were in the process of outsourcing our department to India anyways. And I got out of that, and I was kind of doing my own thing, bounced around doing a couple car sales jobs, and got into real estate for a while. Did some of that, and just kind of bounced around doing my own thing. Eventually, it got into a point to where I needed to go back and get a job again, and I went back to doing communication stuff, working as doing like network administration type tasks, actually all sorts of stuff for a voice over IP company that was local down here. I did that until the pandemic started, and I was instantly laid off as soon as the pandemic started. So at that point in time, I was in like a real transitionary period. I was in a relationship that was at roughly at like the 10-year mark at this point in time, and that ended. And so that kind of brings me to now. So I was unemployed, just got out of a 10-year relationship. 2 years prior, I'm kind of going on. But I forgot to mention this before I took this last computer job. At that point in time, I was really considering, because we were kind of separated on a break at that point in time, and I was really considering going to Prime and getting into trucking, getting started in the industry and everything at that point in time. We ended up getting back together, so that kind of didn't pan out. But I really wish now that I had gotten in at that time, because I'd be 2 years ahead of where I am now. But I would have been able to take advantage of all these awesome rates right now. But that didn't happen. So anyways, I was in a position right now to where everything had been kind of, I'm just in a transitional level of my life. So that's really what had me finally pulling the trigger, because I was planning on, when my lease ended, I was going to just go off to Prime or, some other carrier and have them do my training. But as you may have seen in one of my previous videos, I went in to the career source here in Southwest Florida, and I found out that not only could I get assistance towards truck school, but it would completely pay for it. So I took advantage of that instantly. And that's what, so now I'm wrapping that up. I want to be going with Fry Miller. And so since there wasn't a lot of information about this kind of stuff, there's a lot of information once you go with a company, information about trucking from that point. But this whole beginning area, there really wasn't a lot of info that I could find out there in video form specifically. So that's kind of what had me create the channel. And then I'd like to keep it updated with, as I'm out there on the road, just sharing, tips and tricks of things that I find that are working out for me, to help others out as well. And, stuff I'm already thinking of that I can't find videos about. So I plan on doing that, as well as, just all the cool stuff that I'm going to experience while I'm out there, just kind of sharing that kind of stuff. But I think there's a lot of YouTubers that do an excellent job of that and sharing their tips and tricks that they're coming across. But, I just want to share my perspective, probably come up with a different way. And I'm going with Fry Miller, and there really isn't a lot of info about them out there either. So I'm hoping to document that as well. Hopefully that ends up being a good experience. I feel that it will be, but we'll see. But yeah, so that's, I just kind of wanted to do an about me, why I created the channel, what got me into trucking. And even one of my best friends, about a decade or so ago, we were both kind of really didn't care for our jobs. And this was right before I was getting back into the car business, where I got that sales manager job. And we had considered team driving, but there was just some stuff going on background wise and whatnot that wasn't going to be a good fit. And I'm glad I didn't get in then. This was back close to, right after 2008 and everything. And it would be nice to have all that experience, but I'm also glad for the experience that I found, because that would have just been, at that point in time, trucking to me would have just been a way to get the money to get a degree and go into, IT security, which obviously never panned out well for me. So it's just a good time for me to reset everything in my life. And this is an experience that I always wanted to do, even if this ends up being something that I decide that I'm not going to make a career out of. I know I'm going to at least be doing this for 2 years, because my goal is to save up enough to be able to buy a house by living in the truck. So I know, and worst case scenario, I'm going to be able to make enough to save up to own a home, and or at least a piece of land with, like a double wide or something on it. But it'll at least be an experience. It's something that I've always thought being an over-the-road trucker would be pretty cool, especially, ever since I was a fuel clerk at a truck stop. And it's just going to be cool to knock that off of my, bucket list, if you will. But I think it's an industry that I'm getting the feel for it, that it's going to be like how I used to feel about car sales before that industry really changed. I really feel like it's something that I can call my home, call my career. And I hope that is the case, and I hope that it stays that way for many years to come. But we'll see. Right now, I'm just focused on getting my CDL and getting at least 2 years of experience in, and learning more about driving safe and driving these big vehicles around, learning about the transport industry and what keeps America running. That's also another cool thing that I feel like I'll actually be really fulfilled from this job, even if it is thankless, because especially with everything that we have going on right now, to actually be someone I'm focusing on refrigerated loads are all that I want to deal with off the bat. And, so I'll actually be moving food to places, because I don't know, probably a lot of people in this industry are watching this channel, but if you're not in the industry, you may not know that if trucks stop moving, there's less than 72 hours worth of food out there in the United States without trucks constantly moving it. So it's civil unrest would be insane if the trucks ever stopped. So I actually feel I'm not doing pointless software for Oracle or the other company that I worked at doing like at Oracle I worked on hotel software, and at the other company I was doing phone systems for hotels, and doing some of the software for that and everything. These are so pointless in the big picture, whereas actually moving food and making sure it gets to the grocery stores, that's pretty freaking cool in my book. So it's just kind of what had me interested in getting into it. And obviously the pay right now is pretty insane. It's a surprising thing. People would think, oh yeah, working with computers, you got to be making a ton of money. Well, no, not down here in Southwest Florida, at least. Maybe in some other areas, but yeah, man, the money in trucking, especially when I can have low expenses, is just awesome. So anyways, that's a pretty long about me, but now you have the whole background. Now you know the rest of the story. And so thanks for watching. I hope you'll like and subscribe, and watch for any of my future videos. And please feel free to comment on anything. I respond to all comments. And I also have on my channel About page, I have my contact info, at least an email address that you can reach out to me. So again, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing if you have. And please keep watching. Let me know what kind of videos you'd want to see. Have a great day.